Hello, stamping friends. Welcome to Papercrafting Playdate. My name is Robin Armbrecht at Really Robin Stamps, and I'm so happy to be with you today, creating things with paper. Today is actually October 14th, 2022. So if you're watching it live, we're in the middle of October. If you are watching on the replay somewhere down the road, I'm so happy you're here. Please leave me a comment. Tell me where you're from and let me know what you're up to, what you're making in your craft space. So today is episode 72, and we are going to focus on coloring and blending color using the Stampin Blends. So I am going to turn us right around to the stamping table, and we will get started. So it is Friday here in my live world here. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, let's get that camera situated. So happy Friday, if it is also Friday in your world. Glad to see everyone. All right, so let me pull you up on Facebook so I can see your comments, and we'll get this started. Okay, so I'm going to move this over. If you're watching this on the replay, it's not October anymore. There will be a different Hostess Code, so you can just look at my website to find the most current Hostess Code. But let me tell you just a little bit about this month in October. When you place an order with me of $50 or more, you can choose either some liquid glue or a package of Stampin' Dimensionals, so you can get adhesive. Or my special this month is Stampin' Blends if you spend $75 or more. So that's exciting. That's why I thought we'd focus on the blends today, because that's what you're going to get for free. How's everyone doing? Let's see who's here. Maybe. Hey, Wendy. Hi, Jana. Candy and Deborah, Lori, Polly, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. Rebecca and Lisa and Lori and James and Faye and Cindy, Susan, Chris. Oh my goodness. So excited. And Carol. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Let's get started. All right, let's start on this glorious page right here. This is in the annual catalog. And this is featuring Stampin' Up's colors. All right, these are our color families. Hi, Wanda. So the Stampin' Blends are Stampin' Up's alcohol markers. They have an alcohol base to them. And so the Stampin' Blends all come in combos, and that is this lower row right here on these pages. So I added it all up. And then over here on page 128, there's these natural tones. Okay, so I added it all up for interest, as I wanted to know. So here's a little chart. So there are 6 brights combos. There are 6 neutral combos. Hi, Patricia. There are 7 regals. There are 8 subtles. Okay, so these are the main color families. Then you can get these extras, black, ivory, and bronze. And then we have these natural tones right here, and there's 5 sets of those. And then what's not on here are the 10 in color pairs. So all the in colors have Stampin' Blend combos. And those go in and out, so I didn't add them to my little chart here. I'm very excited because I made this chart all by myself. You can see I printed it at home because it's crooked, right? Anyway, this will be a download on my website later on today so that you can kind of log the blends colors that you have. All right, so that's where you're going to find the blends, and we are going to focus on using them today. In fact, I have 5 ways that you can use your Stampin' Blends. So the very first way is basic coloring. So I'm going to zoom in while we color. And we are going to use some beautiful oranges. All right, so if you've never used Stampin' Blends before, I'm going to just kind of go through a basic tutorial with you. They come in combos and you get a dark and a light of each color. And so what this does is make it extremely easy for you not only to match the color with the papers and other things that you have, but you can very easily like shade and highlight because you have a light and a dark. So there's not really a wrong way to use these. You can start with the light and then shade with the dark, or you can start with the dark and shade and then use the light. It's really just however you want to play with it. So I am going to start with the light and then I'm going to go to the dark. The other thing is that you get a brush tip and then you get a bullet tip. So depending on if what you're coloring is a larger space or a smaller space, you have the choice of using either side of the marker. So I have already stamped this image from the Cup of Tea stamp set, and I cut it out with the die. And I thought this would be kind of fun to color and try to make it look like fall. So I am using Old Olive to color those leaves. So I've done the first pass, hey Julie, in light Old Olive, and now I'm going to bring in the dark, and I'm just going to make it dark right at the base of all those leaves. This is a tiny little space, so there's not a whole lot of room to do a lot of shading. The really nice thing about alcohol markers, if you haven't used them before, is that the alcohol takes a little bit of time to fully dry, so you have an opportunity to blend the colors together. So now I'm going back with the light, and I'm just kind of rubbing, going over where the dark and the light color meet together to kind of erase that little line, and you can see it makes more of like a nice ombre look. Okay, so there are the leaves. Now again, this is a tiny little space, so you're not going to see a huge amount of the shading, but you'll just see just a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is fill in the cup, and I'm going to take the dark Pale Papaya, and I'm going to just kind of go around those leaves with the dark. And then I'm going to just go around the edge as well. I'm going to do a little bit at a time so I have time to blend. Then I'm going to take the light and fill in so let's see if you can kind of see this. I think I need to do that up there. This is very subtle, but you can kind of see that it's darker right around the leaf, and then it gets lighter in the more open areas between the leaves, okay? And you can go back and you can apply more marker so that you can make it, you know, as shaded as you want. So this is just one way to color, and I think it's very popular in the crafting world because you can get very intense color, plus you get the ease of doing it with a marker. So I'm doing the dark first and then doing the light. But just like I showed you on the leaves where I did the light first and then the dark, you can absolutely do it the opposite way. This is making it easier for me to color in between the leaves by doing the darker first. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay, so last round with the dark, I'm gonna just make sure around the outside of the cup is darker than the inside. So that's the darker. And then anywhere that I see a harsh line from that bullet tip, I'm just gonna brush over it with the lighter and it just kind of blends it together. Okay, so one of the things you'll notice when you use the blends, as the color dries, your shading becomes more apparent and it's very, very pretty. All right, so now I'm going to take a little bit darker green to do these leaves that are going to come out of the cup. And this is the light and the dark mossy meadow. There is not even enough room to little shade here, so I'm just going to color in the leaves and call that done. Because the cup is really going to be the focal point. You'll see when we get this card done. Okay. So that's coloring. Now we're going to just use our same colors here, our oranges. And we're going to create a background for our cup to rest on the focal point, and we're going to make a background with all of the orange colors. So I created another chart. So this is the first one I showed you, which shows the colors with their color families. This second page of the chart has them broken down by the color names and the color hues, I think, tones. So these are all the reds. These are all the oranges. These are all the pinks, warm greens, cool greens, etc. So I'm looking at the oranges here, and I want to just create an ombre background. And so I'm going to go light to dark, and I'll probably do pale papaya, pumpkin pie, coral, and then Cajun craze. So let me just line them up, make sure. Light. Here's the coral and the Cajun craze. So it's what's nice about this, when you get kind of like this this kind of chart, then you can see the colors that you have, and it helps you with your shading and your highlighting because you can see which one you might want to put together, the light or the darks. So for our background, I'm just going to go lightest color to darkest. So I'm going to use the light pale papaya first, and then I'm going to use the dark pale papaya and overlap. And then I'm going to take the light again and just go over that line and kind of erase the line where they connected. Now I'm going to take the light pumpkin pie and the dark pumpkin pie. Erase that line a little bit, and we'll erase this line right here. Isn't that fun? Now we'll do the light Calypso Coral. And the dark, we'll go back with the light, blend those together. And then lastly, we'll do the light Cajun Craze. And then the dark. So I'm using a lot of color here. But now we have our ombre background where we can kind of set that cup. All right, what else do you need to know about Stampin' Blends? The ink that you have to stamp in is this Memento Tuxedo Black ink. This was formulated specifically for these blends because they are alcohol based. The ink that you use has to not bleed with for the alcohol. Okay, so there is our focal point coming together. I'm going to take a greeting from that stamp set. Cute, right? How fun to make your own background. Now the paper that works the best to get the most vibrant color is of course the basic white cardstock because it has the smoothest finish on it so that the markers or whatever you're using, watercolor pencils or regular markers or just watercoloring, it's going to give you the best like definition on your stamp image and then the best smoothest for coloring. What you need to know is that the Stampin' Blends bleed through because they're so intense, and that's how you can manipulate them because they like they soak into the cardstock and they stay wet so that you can keep blending them, right? All right, let's finish this card. Our fall cup of tea, and I'm going to make a background. Let's move that for a second. On a pumpkin pie card base. And I'm going to take a leaf from the stamp set and just create a little background. Okay. This one didn't really stamp very well. There we go. Here's the stamp set I'm using. Cup of tea. There's that image and this image right here. Part of a great bundle. So I used a stitched rectangle to cut out this piece that I used for our focal point. And then I mounted it, or I'm going to pair it with one of these contoured scallop rectangles. That comes from this set. Lots of fun. These, of course, coordinate with the stitched rectangle so you have things that you can layer together, which is brilliant. So this is going to fit right onto this Cajun Craze. And then we're going to put a pop of pale papaya underneath just to kind of bring all those colors together. And I wanted to emboss it with an embossing folder. So I'm using the Time Worn type, and I've already run it through just to get a nice little background there. And that will just pull all the colors together. So all the colors that I used on the focal point are on the card as well. And that's kind of how I planned to put that together, just to make it all consistent color-wise. You're right, Susan. I kind of had that. Susan said she likes to see the stitched rectangle in some other color besides white. And that was kind of my response too when I colored it. I'm like, why have I not been coloring it or making more, using it in more cardstock colors? Okay, our last little thing for this card is going to be some champagne rhinestones, because they just look so pretty with these colors. Let's take a big one up here. Put this little medium one right there. Okay. Hi, Liz. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Sarah. How's everybody doing? All right, so there's our finished card. 2 techniques on here: ombre background and just basic coloring. All right, so we're gonna keep moving because I have a lot more to share. So let's just keep these oranges out for a minute, and I wanna just show you. Here it is. So here's our pumpkin, okay? Here's the benefit of having kind of your colors swatched like this, because you can really use them to put your color together if you're coloring something larger. Obviously, I just made something very small and you could barely see the shading, okay? But when you have a larger piece to color, that's really when all of these swatches come into play and it makes more sense. So I'm going to start with the very lightest pale papaya. And now I can use that brush tip because I want to cover a lot more area. And I'm going to leave just a piece of white there. It'll be our highlight. And now I can go back with the dark pale papaya and just start covering these lines that the artist lovingly put there for us so that we would know where to color darker, right? And then we'll do some, where's the light Calypso Coral? We'll just get a little bit of pink in there, kind of that. I'm doing this kind of fast because I just want to give you kind of an idea of how it's different when you have more surface area in your image, right? So I'm just adding now the dark Calypso Coral, and we're just working our way to the darker colors. And every time I go over those areas that are shaded with the new color, it just kind of richly puts those colors together, makes a nice and let's do the Cajun Craze. I'm going to use the bullet tip though because I don't want to get crazy. I'm just going to go along those lines of the pumpkin. Do you guys like to color? So when you sit down to use a stamp image that has something that needs to be colored, what is usually your go-to way of coloring? All right, so you can kind of see where I just kind of shaded around all the outside of each section of the pumpkin. And now I'm going to go back to the pumpkin pie and just kind of brush over those lines until they melt. Okay, so even though we're leaving a little bit of white here, I'm going to just kind of go with the light back over there so it's not so bright white, but you can still kind of see where the light's going to hit that, right? So all of the Stampin' Blends are sold in pairs except for the color lifter. It's sold by itself. This is just blank ink that can help lift off color. So once I've kind of decided where that white spot is, I can go back and blend it. Do you see how that lifted off the color? You can, do it wherever you want. So as it kind of soaks in, it lifts off the color. And then you've got some areas where you're highlighting. And if you don't like how it looks, you can go back with your other colors and add more color. If you're like, that's too bright, I want to add more color around that, then you can go and do that. All right, so this is just an example of how when you've got that larger area, you can really utilize all the shades of the lights and the darks together to really create something that looks very, very rich. So here's an example of the Cottage Rose stamp set with the purples. So the flower really kind of showcases how you can, make the petals pop based on where you put the darker and the light colors. So usually on a flower, you want to put the darkest color coming out from underneath the top petal, and then make the tips of the flowers a lighter color. And I'm not a coloring expert, but this generally makes it look good enough, I think, for me. I think the more that you practice with them, the better you get. Obviously, that's the case with everything, right? And you have to feel very secure about just continuing to add and take away the color until you kind of get the highlights and the shading where you want. Thankfully, most of the time, our images, because of the way the artists create them, already have these very useful markings on them to let us know when we're supposed to shade and when we're not. So again, when you've got all these reds, you can really decide how do you want to layer them to create something that has a lot of depth to it. So this was very, very fun to color. And these, you just need to pop onto a card. All right, so that's how you color a larger spot. And now I'm going to show you another way that you can use your blends. Okay, let's put these over here. So a lot of the designer series papers have images to color. It's quite amazing. And so it's very fun to take your blends and just create some very unique additions to your already beautiful designer series paper. You can make it coordinate even better with what you're doing. So this is the coral, the light coral again. And you see how all these beautiful little shading marks are already on here. This petal's on the inside, so that one's going to be a little bit darker, like that. Okay, and then that looks a little like rough, and so then you just go back over it with the light, especially where those two colors meet, and you just blend it back together. It's pretty brilliant, actually, right? You can just really feel very accomplished. At least I do. Makes me super excited. What color was this? Dark old olive. Okay, let's use the light old olive. Okay, I'm not going to color this whole thing. But can you imagine? Obviously these look more like tulips to me, so they're not really a fall flower, but by using fall colors, you could create just a card that gives the, you know, essence of fall or spring by changing these to yellows and reds. So here's what the finished card looks like. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so this is the Abigail Rose Designer Series paper. And if you take a look at this, right, look at all of these choices you have that you could do some coloring on just in this one pack of paper. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I was kind of in awe of that one when I finished it. I'm like, whoa. Okay, so here's this piece of the Abigail Rose, and I cut out that little cluster and colored it. Tried to use some cool colors. So that's this piece here. And then I cut it out, and then I mounted it on this piece here as the background, and then I embossed it with the painted texture embossing folder just to kind of melt those two pieces together. It looks like it came that way, doesn't it? So much fun. And then I wanted to see what this piece would look like, and I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to really see too much coloring showing up on that. And I was just so happily, look how just beautifully, I love this just as is, but then you can add a little bit of color and just make it match your card. So I used petal pink and crumb cake and so saffron, and the leaves are soft seafoam. So that is a good pack of paper to use if you're thinking about you want to try coloring on DSP. This is great. You don't have to worry about stamping anything. You can just color on it. And then, of course, we have this pack. Anything that's black and white, you have any pattern paper at home that has black and white images, you can create all kinds of fun things with black and white. This pack is in the mini catalog called Black and White. And so I took a piece just like that, and I just colored in those chevrons. I didn't do any shading, I just colored it just to make a simple card. And of course we've got this, my favorite, Perfectly Pencil Designer Series paper. So great, look at all these things you could color. I had to rein myself in and just focus on this one. This piece is gorgeous. And when you add a background and color on the flowers, it totally looks completely different, doesn't it? So this is Pool Party in the background. I did it just like on the teacup. I used the darker Pool Party around so you could, you know, kind of see shadows underneath the flowers, and then the wide open spaces are the lighter Pool Party. This is very therapeutic. I didn't want to sit and color all of this with you today. I wanted to just give you a bunch of ideas, right? But if you sit down and you like to color, this is a great activity to do. Just self-soothe is what I call it. Coloring can be really just so relaxing. So this is an idea. All right, and the last one I colored, I took these beautiful pumpkins. This is the Rustic Harvest paper. Look at all these great little black and white images in this paper. See, now you're going to see all this in a totally different way, right? I love the black and white. Nothing needs to change. It's perfect. I love to use the black and white. But when you add some extra color to it, you can just kind of change it up a little bit. So this paper doesn't have pumpkin pie in it. It has Cajun craze. And then the leaves are mossy meadow. But when I colored them, I used pumpkin pie, and then I put old olive on top of the mossy meadow, and you see how it just kind of changes the whole tone there. So something different. You've probably got a lot of paper already that you're like, I wonder what I could color on that. All right, so let's leave these out so we can bring them back later. So my third idea is coloring on designer series paper. So first, just basic coloring, ombre background, and coloring on designer series paper. So kind of along with that, I'm going to just zoom out for a second and show you this fun new bundle. So this is coming November 1st, which since today's the 14th, that's only 2 weeks away. There's going to be a limited time collection called Fitting Florets. And part of it is going to continue in the next mini catalog in January, but some of it isn't. So I'm not going to show you everything here, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek at what will be available very soon. So this is the bundle right here, this stamp set and these dies. Look at those ovals. We haven't had ovals for a while. Very excited about these. This is going to still be in the spring mini catalog. But there's a great Christmas greeting stamp set that will fit with all those ovals. And then there's a pack of paper that has this very bright and happy color combination. So it can be used for Christmas or not. It's very flexible. Let's look at the patterns on the back. Gorgeous colors, right? Very unique. So the paper and the Christmas part of the stamp set, and then these little swirly embellishments, they're just limited time while this promotion goes early in November. So what I wanted to show you, this is the third thing, I don't know what I'm on, that you can do with Stampin' Blends is you can color over white embossing. So I took this great greeting. I stamped it in Versamark ink, and then I put white embossing powder over it and heat set it. So now I've got this great little kind of chalkboard like oval. And what you can do is take your blends and you can color on top. All right, so that's the light balmy blue, and it's not really, there we go. So I'm gonna use the dark balmy blue. So it kind of just it gives your white embossing kind of the look of like colored chalk, or just adds a little beautiful color. So I'm gonna bring in a couple of the colors in the paper. Let's try this darker one. Yeah, I like that better. Because I did this on black cardstock, I don't have to be careful about really coloring that. I can just do it kind of quickly. So I'll bring in the blue and the green out of the piece of paper. So I already made the card base with this one print here. So I'm gonna make that match. And then I took this amazing frame right here, and this actually cuts out the plain oval and then this beautiful frame at the same time. And so I did it twice, once in black and then once in pink, and that's just gonna go right over that. And then I cut out one of the florets. And then we just have to glue it together. Isn't that fun? Fun colors to think about for using kind of over the holidays, a little bit different. And we'll stick this little greenery piece. Like that. Now, of course, you can use these blends because they're alcohol based and they dry, and I do this all the time. You can color other things, and you'll be able to kind of match things to your colors. So I love the black and white. It's perfect as is, but let's just go ahead and color it blue. So I'm feeling very powerful right now. I can just change the color of this ribbon. My favorite black and white ribbon. I can make that any color match, you know, any Stampin' Blend color. Let's see, I should have probably planned this a little bit better. Put that by our little greenery there. All right, so that is how you can make like kind of a colored chalkboard look. All right. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do is talk about vellum and Stampin' Blends. Okay, let's put that over there. All right, so you can also make backgrounds on vellum. This is a little pack of vellum in the main catalog called Lovely Layers, and it comes with these 4 designs already printed on the vellum. And then it also has a bunch of just already pre-cut pieces of vellum, and they're perfectly sized. They're 3 3/4 by 5, so they're perfectly sized to fit on a trimmed quarter and then to plop onto your card. So let's just start with the unprinted one, just plain vellum. And we're going to just create our ombre effect again. And it is even more intense because it sits on the vellum. Even more intense than, what am I trying to say? Than stamping it on the white. Make sure I go all the way off. And so you know you're going to be watching me get some therapy in today. Gorgeous reds, gorgeous, gorgeous. So this is, that was Cherry Cobbler, Real Red, and now I'm gonna do Sweet Sorbet. This is one of the in colors. They all look the same to me. Gotta read them for sure. And the dark Sorbet. And then we'll end with our Poppy Parade. Normally, you can't stamp with regular ink on vellum because it doesn't dry. Vellum is plastic paper, so all right, look at that great ombre effect. You could do anything with this piece of paper. Here is what I finished with. Just some simple stamping. And then I used all those same colors to create the apple, very much like I did the pumpkin with that little white space. So beautiful reds, beautiful reds. All right, so that's kind of the same as the ombre that we did on the basic white. It's just on vellum, and so you get much more intense look. Here are the purples and blues on a printed one. And here are ombre greens on this printed leaf. And then this is very printed dark, but I did put all the blues underneath this mountain one and did some simple embossing. Very easy. Okay, so this is our last technique here. Let's pull out a new piece of scratch paper so you can see. So we're going to use one of the printed ones. And you can kind of tell which side is printed. It has just a little sheen to it. So this is the side it's printed on. So I'm going to use the back of that. Sherry's asking, did I stamp on the front or back of the vellum after I used the blends to make the background? That is an excellent question. You can do either. It doesn't matter because the Stampin' Blends will dry instantly. So I think what I did is stamp on the front. I definitely stamped on the front on this one, and then this one I can't remember for sure. When you put it up against the white, the side that you colored on is going to be just slightly more intense than when you flip it over. They both look really beautiful. All right, so I'm looking at the back side of this printed one, and I'm going to take the darks from these beautiful purples and blues, and we're going to do that blended alcohol technique because that is another amazing little thing that you can do with these blends. So this technique is very specific with vellum. Definitely want to use vellum. And I'm just creating just splotches. We're going to blend it together with alcohol so it doesn't need to be perfect. So this is Balmy Blue and Highland Heather and Orchid Oasis. Aren't those beautiful together? But I do love those cool colors. So, okay, so the technique for blended alcohol is to use vellum, Stampin' Blends, and then 91% isopropyl alcohol. And you just need a little bit. And then you just need a dry brush. And you're going to start with the lightest color, and you're just going to dab it where you colored. And they're going to blend together on the edges, but I don't want the colors to get all mixed up. Kind of want it to look like shades of color. So what happens, you can kind of see what's happening over here. The alcohol reacts with the alcohol in the markers. Now I'm going to go to the purple. And it creates these beautiful little edges around like the outside of where you colored. And then we'll end up with the blue. And then you can kind of decide if you want to go over anything again. I think this technique turns out really cute. Don't overthink it. That's what I was trying to say. All right, so this will dry on its own. It's already drying. And I'm going to just speed it up with the heat tool so we can finish our card. Now we have this just fun little kind of background technique. And when you add it to white on the back, that's when it really pops. So I cut a deckled rectangle to put behind it. Isn't that pretty? Now this one you can do either way, but I'm going to put mine on the back so it's a little bit more muted. I'm going to attach it with my Seal Plus. I'm just rubbing over where that tape is, and it really kind of disappears. It's pretty amazing. You can see it a little bit, but because I put it all the way around the outside, it's pretty good. And now we'll add it to a piece of orchid. Where are my purple lovers? I bet you this card is like speaking to you. And then the card base is Highland Heather. Whoops, I was gonna do something before I attached it. Hold on. Ooh. Phew. All right, so I'm gonna add some ribbon around here. Actually, I'm gonna stamp on this. What am I doing? Okay, let's stamp on it first. Now, if you want to stamp on vellum, you have to use StazOn because this is not alcohol based, and this dries on plastic, similar to the Stampin Blends. But regular water-based ink will not ever dry on vellum. Even pigment ink won't. So you have to use StazOn. That looks a little crooked, but that's okay. We'll make our bow crooked. So this is the Orchid Shimmer Ribbon. Okay, how about we glue it now? I'm loving the purples. So just like you can color on ribbon or paper, you can also color on your rhinestones and make things that match your project exactly. Should have done some purple ones. Oh yeah. So these you can just color. One, two, three, four, five. We're just gonna make this sparkly up here. There we go. Okay. So there is the blended alcohol technique. Here's the exact same card, but in the light pinks. It's Flirty Flamingo, and this is like ombre in both directions. So when you are cleaning with or using the StazOn ink, you can clean it real fast with the regular Stampin' Mist cleaner on your scrub. But there's also a special StazOn cleaner, which is not on my desk right now. But if your images get stained, you can rub this special cleaner just for StazOn on your image, and then you can get that off. And here is another. Here's like their warm pinks and yellows and oranges. All right, we have a lot. We have a lot. All right, let's just quick review. So basic coloring is mostly what these Stampin' Blends are for, and they're there to make nice, vibrant images, but you can also color on your designer series paper. And you can color on embossing, and you can color on vellum, and you can do that Stampin' the blended alcohol technique. So I don't know, what do you think? Do you have a favorite technique? Susan likes the pink and yellow, thank you card. Yes, that one really spoke to me too. I was just so happy those colors together. This was so much fun getting out my blends, and I especially loved making these charts. So again, I will have these charts available to download so that you can put your colors that you currently have collected on a chart, and you can think about if you want to try to get you know, all the oranges or all the reds. Look at your images and see what you have that needs to be colored in. Maybe you have a lot of stamps with people or animals or nature. You might want to think about these natural tones, because you can do all kinds of shading with these, and then add in some of the other darker browns like the soft suede. There's another chart which I didn't have time to color in. And it's specifically designed for these 10 colors right here. And you go light to dark this way, and then light to dark this way, and then you blend them together so you can see just how many combinations you can get with just putting these natural tones together. It's quite amazing. So those are great for, like I said, faces, any kind of skin or hair or nature. It's just great to have those. So yeah, think about your images. What do you have? Think about your designer series paper. What colors might you want to use? Lots of greens to choose from, so you can pick your favorite greens, and then you know, figure out what kind of flowers you have. Do you need red or yellow or a little bit of purple? And then you can figure out which ones are the best for you. So I hope that you had fun watching these techniques, and remember, if you place an order with me, $75 or more this month, October, you can pick any color of the Stampin' Blends Combo as your free item. So this is a $9 value, and you can pick any one you want, and I'm going to send it to you. So I thank you so much for your time. And John is getting out her black and white DSP right now. Yes, do it. Do it. I encourage you to do it. Challenge you to do some therapeutic coloring and enjoy. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye.